Welcome to the show, guys. Tonight I'm going to be sitting down with Jay Burch from Hidden Existence and the Bigfoot Files. Jay is a very interesting investigator and eyewitness of the cryptid Bigfoot. He co hosts the show alongside Daniela Agliolo, and I was on their show about a few months ago, and it was a really good experience. I really enjoy speaking with those two, and I offered Jay and Daniela a position to be offered to come on the show as well, and we're going to be bringing Jay on first, and it's going to be a very interesting sit down. But before we get Jay on, I just want to make a couple announcements. As always, guys, you can reach me at beyondfringeofficial at outlook.com if you would like to be on the show, if you would like to submit a story, or more importantly, if you would just like to sit down and speak with me off camera, off mic, everything, then of course, I'm more than welcome to do that. Something I've been noticing too, and this is my second announcement, is a lot of people just think it's good to just promote your content in the chat or in the comments, and it's like, guys, look, your desperation for promoting your content because you have a low amount of subscribers. See, you only have low amount of subscribers because of the new YouTube algorithm and everything being censored. Your content, if it's not restricted for kids, you're not going to get far. And if you're trying to promote your work and you would like to be on the show, then please just let me know. But promoting your work in the comment section, that's not going to get nowhere, and it's an ounce of desperation. And I have my comments to say about desperation in the fields, but I'm not going to get that far tonight because of the controversial matter, but I'll save that for another day. Well, Jay, I want to welcome you to the show, especially coming from the Great White North in Canada. You guys are about, by the time of us, you and I talking, it's like early, it's like evening by you, and it's getting towards late evening by me, but hope you're doing well, my friend, staying warm.
I'm actually in Washington State. I'm at the base of Mount St. Helens.
Ah, my mistake then. It happens, you know?
You know what? I've been to Canada.
You know what it is? It's because I've spoken to so many Canadian researchers, and I'm so adjacent to their times. I'm so adjacent to where everything's at, because I would have introduced you out here as the British Columbian badass had I gotten that book.
Nope. I'm just a guy that researches up here and lives at the base of Mount St. Helens.
You know, and when I first talked to you at first, I thought that's why I was a little quiet at first when I talked about Canadian with Gugway and Jenny Squaws, because of just the whole atmosphere. I was like, wait a second. And then I thought of Washington. So you guys got a lot of Bigfoot all over on that area, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I'm told. But I do know a little bit of history on the other two topics that you're talking about. Uh, I believe that the Janusqua is the female, uh, and the other one you mentioned is the male. It's one or the other, either way you put it, and they are actually on live, or they're on totem poles over there, and they only put real beings on totem poles. They don't put fake stuff on totem poles. So that's one of the first clues there that'll let you know these things are real. Female carries the basket and steals the children, and I'm not really up on most of what it is, but I do know that the female is the one that they tell the little kids when they're little that you better behave because the Junisqua is coming to get you. So that's and she wears a basket where she fills it up with children.
Yeah, I heard about that, but see, I guess it's because I often hear so many different variations of the tales, and on top of that, I familiarize with Gugwees being the males because of their hunted nature and the aggressive reports. And the Genesquas, see, I don't really know too much about them because what you just said about stealing the babies and whatnot. I heard about that. I've always heard about that being some form of truth, just because of going into some of the one of the villages, I guess, and going ahead and taking from these tribes and stuff, and going by mythology stakes. But I don't know. It's weird. These things are. I've always think as a cryptozoologist, you know, you get into some of the weirdness, but the weirdness also comes back to hit you because it gets weirder as time goes on.
It does. If you go too far in the rabbit hole, you can't come back out. You have to have somebody there to pull you out, basically by the legs. I won't go that far in. I look at these as physical, earthbound beings. They are, to me, what I saw was a woman's face that was much larger than our face, but it had made me think I was looking at a woman. So I mean, I other than the hairy body, it just to me, I'm not going to put one mystery on top of another mystery on top of another mystery. It's just I'm not going to do it.
I also think, too, it gets rather obsessive where you start to really take this so much. Like I know some people that go to bed and they get like a few hours of sleep because they're just continuously researching. And it's kind of it makes me wonder. It's like, does cryptozoology take like a psychological effect into somebody? I'd say yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. You have people that stay up. I don't know. They write books and stuff, and they talk about the Bigfoot that lives in their heads and the Bigfoot that manifests inside their house and whispers in their ear. And I've seen on some of the groups, look what's in my mirror this morning as I got out of the shower, and it was just a blurry mirror, but somehow in their eyes, they're looking at a Sasquatch for some reason. And who knows why? Why did you make it a Sasquatch? When I hear these guys talk about things are talking in their heads and living in their heads, and the one guy says that there's this little pink light in his head, and that the Sasquatch tell him that they hunt us for sport and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, I'm telling you, my friend, that is not a Sasquatch. You've got some problems. And it's not the Sasquatch. It's, it could be, I'm not one that says that demons and all that other stuff doesn't exist or whatever. I'm not afraid of any of that kind of stuff. I'm more afraid of a Sasquatch than anything that's, in the religious type of realm. Because I just think most of that is a bunch of crap. But, I mean, when I hear these ridiculous stories, it just ruins everything that we're working for. And I've come to the point where I'm so sick of it that I am not a member of any group as far as Sasquatch goes. It just, the same thing is going on. That's why me and Danielle and a small group of people, we're trying to change this and move in a different direction. This crap of muddying up something that's already a blurry subject it's become to the point where they've added so much. People have added so much that it's, you can't really, you have to research on your own and just screw it and write your own things down and all that other stuff. I'm down to the point where I'm impressed with a handful of people in all of this, all of it. And that's Shelley Montana. That's Amy Boo. That would be Justin there from Canada, Cherminsky, and Paul Graves. Other than that, I'm just done with these are the guys that are still moving hard and being out in the bush. I mean, really out in the bush, and the ladies. I just had Shelley come to Montana on the show the other day on the Bigfoot Cafe, and she is so impressive. She's a real podunk country girl who literally she comes to our state from Texas. She comes to my state here in Washington State, and she goes to a place and stays there for 4 or 5 weeks at a time, sometimes a couple months, because it's the best research in the world for Sasquatch. And these are the people. She'll do it by herself, but these are the people I have respect for. The rest of them, that's fine. You can go on and do all your talking and all that stuff in these little get-togethers they do, flea markets I like to call them, or t-shirt sales. That's the best place. The world's biggest garage sales is what I like to call those when they get together. Their conferences is what they like to call them. But yeah, it's just I'm done with I will share my research. Anything I find, anything, I will share for free. And it'll be posted on my page, or Daniela will have it, or, I'll give it to anybody that wants it. And that's the way it should be. Most of the old timers, I think one of the biggest problems we have is people want to uh, put the copyrights on stupid little things they find, and in the end, it turns out to be nothing. That's the sad part. Even with Ron Moorhead, he got those great sounds way back in what 70, between 70 and 74, I believe. But then nothing's been recorded since then. You've had the Patterson Gimlin film back in '67, and nothing's been recorded that I would say is a Bigfoot since then. I mean, but you also have, it's full of people who say, "Oh, I've got crystal clear footage. I've got crystal clear pictures. I've got all these things, but I'll never share them." I'm like, you're as big a liar as the rest of those people. And the more this is the most hoaxed. You think it's Halloween every day in the Bigfoot world. It's like trick or treat. It's the most hoaxed subject there is, and that's just, it's done nothing but pollute what we do. The honest people like me, I had a terrifying encounter, and I had to put up with all this crap that's in the Bigfoot world, and I'm sick of it. And I've only been involved. I knew the old timers back in the day. My wife and I got out of it for maybe 20 years, somewhere in there, 15, 20 years. She took care of her mom, and we just did other things. And then with that encounter we had, it brought us back in. But the Bigfoot world had changed, but it hadn't changed. We knew Renee DeHanden, and we'd met several other people back then. He was one of what they call the Four Horsemen of Sasquatch. The thing was, all them guys were stealing from each other. Pay to burn, all those guys. Don't let everybody's got their fan base in Bigfoot too. No, but you've got the people who support and say, "Oh, he never stole anything, and this guy never stole." These guys were stealing each other blind and screwing each other over with lawsuits and just crazy stuff. So we finally get out of it, and then we come back, and now there's ghost Bigfoots and Bigfoots that whisper in your ear, Bigfoots that follow you home over continents.
Demonic Bigfoots, by the way.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's just like, what in the absolute hell happened here? And that's what makes it so hard. Now it's hard enough to get somebody outside of say a Dr. Meldrum to stand and listen to you. But then you add all this freaky crap, and next thing you know, it's just not ever going to happen because of this crap. Why would you put all that other stuff? You got a gal that's got this video that it looks to me like a squirrel jumped through some vines, and that's supposed to be the cloaking Bigfoot. And just, why would you say it's a Bigfoot? Why? I don't understand any of that stuff. My biggest fear is that after the encounter my wife and I had, it was very aggressive, that somebody's going to get killed. And you have these people that what they call the woo, and there's some good people in there, but they tell you, "Oh, the Bigfoot will never ever hurt you, and I can swear to you this, and if I was there, I would step in between you to show you how good and loving and peaceful, and they protect us and all that other stuff," and I'm just thinking, protect us? How are they protecting us? Same with the guy that claims that the Bigfoot told him in his head that they hunt us for sport. Well, wouldn't there be millions of people gone if the Bigfoot hunt us for sport? I mean, and these people have followings, dude. They have followings, and people that are literally like, "You shut your mouth. He knows what he's talking about. You don't." I was told that I don't have boots on the ground when I challenged one woo researcher, if you want to call him a researcher, talking about getting woke up in the middle of the night and traveling to Canada by hitchhiking and bus and every way he could get there to witness the birth of royal Sasquatch twins. And you hear the women in the audience going, "Oh," you just like, did you really just fall for that? Yeah, this guy, he's big time too, man. But I'm tired of naming names. If you want to put your name down there as you want to be a fan of this guy or whatever. I don't want fans. I want people to help find out what happened and what's going on out there and why these creatures are out there, but nobody seems to. They must be very smart beyond us, and I always hear people talk about the oh, they didn't find the mountain gorilla wasn't proved until whatever, and the panda wasn't proved. Well, you know what that means? The people that lived in those areas talked about them forever from the beginning of their time. Western science didn't believe it. Western science had to go and kill a bunch of them so that they could be satisfied that, oh gosh, these crazy black people over there in Africa weren't lying. Same with the crazy Chinese weren't lying about this panda. So, what is the first thing people do when they finally get to go over there? Western science rules the world when it comes to this kind of stuff. I hate hearing that term when they say, well, this wasn't discovered or that wasn't discovered. Yes, it was. It just wasn't recognized by Western science. So that's another thing. There's a lot of prejudice in science too, as far as what your evidence means, and would it work with evolution, and would it work with the other religions, type of Christianity and all the other things. I pull all of that out of my research. I've told other researchers, take your Christianity or your religion and kick it aside and come to this straightforward think outside the box. And then, don't make anything more than what you saw. And what I saw was a woman that was covered in hair that was twice our size. And, and then the red one that I saw was so massive that I still have trouble even thinking about it. I'm on medication to sleep at night because I can't, ever since I've never had a bad dream about them. I've never relived the encounters and all that stuff. The only thing is it's disrupted my sleep pattern to the point where there are some nights I sleep maybe 2 hours a night. So I've just upped my dose too. And that's pretty much thanks to them. But at the same time, we go back. My wife and I were going to go this weekend, but it's supposed to pour down rain. So we're going to go ahead and just maybe go target practice or something like that instead of spending a weekend or something. We're still going to probably drive. We'll definitely drive up that way. But and then who knows if the weather, we may decide to stay a night or something. But that's the good thing about living here is we can come right back home within 10 minutes of where we saw our Sasquatch. And that to me is probably the most advantaged thing. I try to tell people, including the famous people, and you'll probably notice, Chris, that they just hop around and speak at all the conferences. And this week I'm researching in Georgia, and this week I'll be researching in Kansas, and this week I'll be in Washington State. But they're there for a weekend. Now, if you're going to find these things, and my wife and I have found more tracks, and we've had vocal stuff and all that, but we go back to the same place over and over and over again. I don't care about fame, and I don't care about ever speaking at anything. I'm going to get to the bottom of it if I can. And I don't even write stuff down. I'm thinking about writing stuff down now because I've been invited into a very select, small group of people that are into this only for that. It's a privately selected. I was asked to be a member, and this isn't a club, one of these research or one of these internet clubs. This is a critical thinking research, and there's about 5 of us, and we'll meet once a month and online, talk about what we've found, share the things that we've found, because this has become it's become a cartoon, man. It's become a comedy, the Bigfoot world, and quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I don't need the trouble. I don't need And honestly, if you've ever listened to me, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me. I don't care what they think about uh, anybody that I support. I'm a very vocal, straightforward kind of guy. That's where I get my popularity is I shoot from the hip. And I'll protect you with my life. I mean, if you're a friend, then you're going to be my friend to the end, and I'll do everything I can to help you. But that's basically who I am. What I say, I'm never going to say something I'm not sure of, because if you just speak without thinking, you're a fool. And if I'm not sure, I saw Sasquatch. I've seen them 3 times in my life. And I'm telling you that I don't know anything about them other than I know that they haunt. Um, I know some of the sounds they make. I do know that they also can imitate birds and things like that, because it's happened while we've been out there during these confrontations, basically. Um, yeah, it's just bizarre why anybody would, and most of the people, and I may skip around a little bit, but most of the people you'll see on some of these, like you've been on our show, and I'm absolutely, you're one of my favorite people that has come on, you and Zach, and but you can see if you read the chat, uh, there are people that are all over the place with this, and that's fine. But I think that if you're going to be speaking where you have people following you and listening to you, and you're telling them that the Bigfoot is your best friend ever, and it just, I think that's very dangerous.
Yeah, no. Well, let me just backtrack on a couple things because you bring up so many good points about a lot of the topics, whether it's about the community or if it's about investigators. Um, Primarily, I think one of the crazy things about being a cryptozoologist is that people think that there's money in this field. There's no money.
There is, because I've spent a lot of it.
Well, your own money, but like thinking
Yeah,
make like making a buck just
yeah,
for
yeah.
going at a
You can forget
conference,
that.
like 10K just for the experience, and then you also have the the idea of releasing all these documentaries. And listen, I mean, it's one thing if you're an investigator and you're putting it out as information, but then if you're building it up like it's a suspenseful act, which is something that you'd see out of reality TV, then that's a problem. And I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about anybody necessarily, just as you weren't, but one of the things about this that is very true is about the aspect of the commercialization of things with the crypto community. Plus, also, too, you look at the monopoly effect, because you had at one point left, and when you had returned, we talk about all these different theories now on what Bigfoot is, whether it's a ghost, whether it's a demon. Now, you are probably familiarized with creepypastas and horror narrators, and that's also an element of why I think there's a contradiction in the field, is because we listen to what these scary stories present to us, and then we also look at it as a system where we think that must exist because we hear about what a description of these things look like, so they possibly might do that because of how they look. You also have it, too, where people who are heavily religious into it, and I'm not saying anything bad about religion, I'm not knocking religion, I am a believer of God, but at the same time, I also try to tell the difference between what we study and what the Bible might show us or tell us. And that's another thing, is that like when we look at the contradictions of what we read in text or what we read from previous history with investigators or eyewitnesses, we instantly build an opinion. And I remember when I was an enthusiast for dogmen, I thought that these things were werewolves and vicious monsters. And while I still think that they are a very intimidating, vicious cryptid, I don't think I don't advertise them as what they should be made out to be, and that is that they're trying to be made out to be these demons or these violent beasts. You talk about these things being physical. These things are not a supernatural force or something of that nature. That's kind of the big problem I think a lot of people seem to contradict when they enter into the field and they listen to the people who throw that. But you also mentioned about people having these communities and having these fan bases, and they have to look good for them because that is how they get their ratings. That's how they get their viewers. That's how they get their people to tune in to their shows. And it's a shame, too, because in reality, we all should be working together and trying, no matter how many shows we make, if it's informative, it's informative. But at the same time, not everybody's accurate. Everything I say, I could be wrong. Everything that you say could be wrong. Who knows? One day these things, the truth will come out, maybe not in our lifetime. And, who knows? We might have a conclusion at our lifetime, but just at a later date. It's just the fact being is that right now it's just on the table. There's just so much happening, I think, with the cryptid community as a whole, because we have shows, we have reality TV, we have podcasts like this. We also have, boots in the ground, but not as much. But we mostly have novelists. We mostly have narrators. It's all these branches of people who are sharing information, and they all come, whether it's supposed to be pop culture or if it's supposed to be nonfiction. But it's a very interesting time, to say the least. And you mentioned about Shelley, Amy, Justin, and Paul. I mean, very brilliant names. I just recently watched Amy's interview with Bob Gilman, and that was really good. And that was a very good example of two investigators coming together and delivering what they know. And it's two different generations of investigators who have the same interest and can be negotiable on their opinion. And that's the beauty of it too, if you think about it, is that why can't we have more of that? And that's the clarity, I think, that we see when we have genuine boots in the ground investigators and researchers who take it seriously versus those who go on a microphone and just say things but don't present more to their testimony.
I agree. We got Amy coming on not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. We got Amy coming on. And I'm excited about that. I'm taking this weekend off the show just to get some rest. But yeah, you're right. We have to be able to. One of the things I like about what me and Daniela do, or try to do, is we want to talk to people, but people get so upset. And I always say to the woo people, look, I say to anybody, you can't put these people down till you've attended one of their conferences. Then you have all the ammunition you'll ever need. I mean, you'll walk out of there shaking your head. I promise you. You just be like, oh my God. And they want more than the big conferences to go listen to their crazy. But at the same time, I say to people, instead of getting mad at me, because I'm not going to pretend with you, convince me and I'll be your biggest advocate. Convince me. Show me your evidence and convince me. And then, that Dr. Johnson says, I can open portals. You can't see them, but I can do it. Now, what kind of crap is that? We have to, I think we have to be more responsible when we speak. Me of all people saying something like that. But I mean, when we're talking about things like this, that things that can get people killed, hurt, maimed, you can be damaged mentally. I mean, I had, my wife and I both went through PTSD for a while there. It lasted longer in me, but I'm good now. Other than I just can't sleep. And it's really bad when we go camping. It doesn't matter how heavily armed I am and all that. And the guns aren't for the Sasquatch, but I'm heavily armed. But it's you got the bears and the cougars and all that stuff. But I am still that part of me is still afraid. And so yeah, I do go armed. And my goal is not to kill one. I know they're there. And if I know they're there, if I saw what I saw and I heard what I heard, my wife was there, all that stuff, then whatever powers that people talk about they know. Okay. They know. There is no, I don't even think there's really, now the more I think about it, I don't think there's a conspiracy. I just think they're thinking, until the time comes that we absolutely have to do this, because these things are perfectly capable of taking care of themselves. Everybody always wants to say we need to kill one. That way we can protect them. Doesn't seem to me like they need a lot of protection. Does it seem like that to you? I mean, they've managed to stay away from us and do pretty good this whole time. So you really think we need to kill one to prove it to who? Prove it to who? The people that laugh at you? I don't give a shit who laughs at me. For me, I saw what I saw. I know what I know. Uh, so I'm just saying, then it can't be a big secret. And it's not that anybody's saying no, they don't exist. The government's never said no, they don't exist. They just don't recognize them. So I mean, people. I'm not killing a Bigfoot. You can forget about that. I'm not doing it. After seeing the interaction, after things weren't so good, but then there was interaction with they had with their own children up there, and that's all it was. Is they're trying to protect their own children. Uh, there's no way. There's no way. That was exactly like us. That's exactly how we would protect our children. So there's no way. I did want to kill that son of a bitch. I mean, that was my, excuse my language, but that was my thought when my wife and I got chased, and I thought that she was going to be killed by this thing. I went and bought a 12 gauge shotgun, pump shotgun, 5 round, and I was going to go up there and kill him if I could find him. But the more longer it took me before I could go back up there, I realized that he's just protecting his own family. So I mean, I changed my mind on that, but I was sick for a long time. The PTSD had me just sick, crying, fits of crying, things like that. Just nervous bouts. Sounds would make me jump, and I'd drop cups of coffee and things like that. So I've come a long way since 2016, but when you see what I saw, and especially the red one to me is like the I'd have to say the dad or whatever. I don't know. I don't use the same jargon that all these other guys use as apes and gorillas and stuff like that. That thing was massive, and he just stood behind a tree, and I could just see his outline. And I couldn't look at him again, and that has stuck with me. It frightens me because these things aren't supposed to exist. But I don't understand. When I saw that, I thought to myself, well, if that came out of a portal, that had to be a big portal. I don't, dude. I put it like this: as far as the portal thing. If you have the ability to come in and out of this dimension at will, why wouldn't you do it? Oh, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning at the butcher shop or someplace like that, where you get all the food you want, or a grocery store or whatever, I don't understand why people think that oh no, they pop in and out of dimensions and all that. But I just, why not in your house too? Come on, man. Why not go to the grocery store and get what you want or whatever? No, I'm going to make it hard on myself, in the forest. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just not going to argue with people about those types of things. And I'm considered an asshole because I won't budge. And look, I saw an orb the night that I had my encounter up there, and I didn't attribute that orb to have anything to do with them. I didn't go, oh, Sasquatch and orb. When I saw that, I was like, I yelled out, I can't deal with both of you at the same time. And that, I don't know what it is. I know it was alive. Do I think they're magic? No, I don't. I think it's another life form that lives on this earth. People need to stop putting the religion and the fantasy and all that stuff. This is another look. There's a place in Texas. There's a city there where it's the orbs are everywhere in this city. They've had Japanese researchers come and scientists and observe these orbs there in Texas, and they'll tell you whatever these things are, they're alive. Just don't know what they are, but there's some sort of a life form, and we can't get scared every time we find some kind of a new life form. People want to immediately go, it's demonic, that kind of stuff. We have to be sensible when it comes to these types of things. There's I don't know whether what it was that night, why it was there, but a lot of the stuff uh, kind of calmed down a little bit, but not completely. I mean, they kept me up all night. So, but yeah, I don't put religion and things, that they're Nephilim, and that doesn't even make sense. The Nephilim were not evil towards men. They were men of renown. They were kings. There was nothing. I and it's just one verse. So I don't understand why people want to do that kind of stuff. Make things bigger than they are. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things that don't really add up, especially now with the way research is being taken. And that goes back to even what I was saying about the whole idea that when social media had been made it into this whole thing, and I wanted to ask you this about social media because, the beauty of it is that, yeah, it's a good outlet for people to come in and come together instead of having to run to a newspaper in fear of ridicule or feel ridiculed as a whole. Because back in the day, of course, and I can imagine that trying to find a cryptozoologist was as much as pulling teeth. And it's also because of the fact that there wasn't a lot of resources back then, besides cable television telling you all these crazy stories like Unsolved Mysteries and In Search of would produce. And then on top of that, you have this situation where there's also the ridicule factor or the aspect in social media with just how they operate, because going back to the whole idea of how people are and take advantage of other people. And one of the things you touched base on that I wanted to get into is PTSD with cryptids, because I've had a buddy of mine who had seen an up close dogman, and this freaked him out so bad he was terrified. He was so terrified he literally broke down in tears explaining to me his report. And I said to him, I was like, dude, what did you see? What did you see that was making you so terrified? And this is a big guy, so you can imagine that the most tallest person, the most biggest guy, who can say I'm not afraid of nothing, but then see something that doesn't look human and look at you in the most intimidating way, would freak you the hell out. And I'm sure even in your encounter with Bigfoot, you and your wife, I'm sure that the levels of intimidation and fear were a big thing. I mean, clearly PTSD, and everybody contradicts PTSD, which is I totally don't understand why, because anybody can receive PTSD. Anybody can get PTSD from just witnessing a car crash, or even people who are so hypersensitive in a sense, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but like, anybody who were to see, I know a buddy of mine who refuses to go into the woods, and this one guy I talked about who had seen a dog man hadn't been really in the woods a lot since, and that was 5 years back. But now I know one other person who had a very interesting bear encounter in the woods, and they're very scared to go in the woods now because of just the whole idea of bear. And sure, it's a natural animal, but at the same time, it's the fact, wow, this 600, 700-pound bear, whatever weight it's at, is big enough to kill me. And the same reaction would be towards a Bigfoot, dogman, a chupacabra, anything. So PTSD is a definite and a big factor, and I think that a lot of people just contradict it, because I'm sure that ever since your encounter, your whole life has changed completely. Your perspective has changed.
It has, and the problem we had mostly was that there was nobody to go to. Who do you go to? There's no one to go to. Uh, how are you today, sir? Pretty good, but I saw a Bigfoot and I thought I was going to kill my wife and I. Oh, well, that go down there on the left there, and there's no. Who do you go to? There's no one there because of the joke of the whole thing. And I always tell people I wouldn't be telling you this to make it up, because look, there's no money. I don't want anything for this. I want answers. That's all. And I had to suffer forever until I just kind of as much as I got the best, I started healing. I did this show with these gals that call themselves the She Squatchers. And one of them that calls themselves Jenna was able to get me to talk about some other things that had been bothering me throughout my life and stuff like that. And she got into me pretty good. She really got her way in there, which nobody can. Nobody ever penetrates me. And she was literally got inside there, and I opened up to her, and I came out of there with a big, I felt the healing start right then and there. I mean, it was like I don't think after that that I've other than every once in a while noises will get me, but yeah, I always attribute that to Jenna. I don't know her last name or anything like that, but uh, because I don't want them thinking that that they can cure things like that. It's just she was masterful at making me relax and telling her some things that were very important that I hadn't told anybody else, and I'm not going to discuss them ever again. But she got that out of me, and that helped me a lot. That I don't know why, uh, but there was a big sense of healing from her. But that it's still with no one to go. There's a nice lady. She's one of my favorite people. Her name is Christine or Sibylla Kristen Irwin. She talks to people who have had terrifying encounters, and she helps by drawing pictures of what you saw, and she'll counsel you. Listen to what you have to say. She helped me a great deal. I named my German Shepherd after her. That's how important she is in my life. But these weren't people that I knew or were readily available. These were people that a couple of years after the incident that you meet because there's nobody to talk to. Um, I didn't feel like the people at the conferences gave a crap when my wife and I went there just weeks after our encounter. I mean, literally weeks. And we had met somebody there that helped us out enough that we actually slept a full day. We didn't attend the rest of the conference because we were asleep. We hadn't slept. We just couldn't sleep. For weeks, we were sleeping an hour a night, 2 hours a night. And myself, without that medication, you're not going to get 2 hours out of me. That's it. It's going to be 2 hours. And it's going to be split up of waking up and sitting up and going back to sleep, waking up and sitting up. Maybe when I get the answers or whatever, eventually, that'll calm me down enough to where I can. But what I take is not addictive, and it's not over the counter. It is a prescription. Uh, but I'm not going to get into the medicine and all that stuff. I don't want people to think that it's some kind of addicting thing. I absolutely ask for non-addictive prescription strength medicine. So, and that's what it is. Uh, it, we need to have more people trained in this somehow. That's why I say, look, after a while, after 5, 6, 700 shows, I'm not talking about me, but there are plenty of podcasts out there where, look, you got 600, 700 people, and you're going to go on for years and years and years, and there's still, you're getting a story a week, and then stories you're not going to have on and things like that. Got to be some liars, and there's got to be some truthers. You know what I mean? That there's no way you could vet. Sometimes, I can tell you, I can turn on a podcast and I can listen to a witness without seeing their face, and I can tell you they're lying their butt off. As opposed to hearing somebody and damn well they're telling the truth. It's just there's nobody for us, and I don't know how we can make somebody for us. But even my friend Gary, the one he saw snuck up on his truck while he was sleeping, and he happened to wake up with his face pressed against the window, and that caused him great grief. And he's a veteran of Iraq, so that scared him unbelievably. And it's just my friend Christine, Sibylla Kristen Irwin. I don't know why I keep calling her Christine. There's a professional wrestler out there that's almost a giant, and she won't give his name, but she told us that he was hiking. Guy likes to hike, and he was hiking, and on this trail when he come around a bend, there's a female Sasquatch standing there looking at him, and she didn't do anything. It's just that screwed up his paradigm, and he literally had to get counseling. He broke down, cried like a baby, like I used to do, and she helped him with what. And this guy, professional wrestler, big fellow. I don't know his name, but I can kind of figured it out with some other things. But very popular wrestler at one point, and not Andre the Giant, but someone else. And yeah, that's amazing to me that even when it screws with your paradigm. Look, I always thought these things existed, but just like you said, you believe in Jesus Christ. Well, just think about it for a second. If Jesus Christ came right into your house and said, "Hey, how you doing today?" You would shit your pants. That's and so when you say fantasy becomes reality in front of your eyes, that was what had gotten me. And it wasn't Fantasy Island. It was violent, uh, come right between, chasing you. So yeah, that was what the hardest part for me is still trying to figure out why it chased me. And then I realized, my wife's the one who told me is because you were doing that call. We shouldn't be calling. Don't listen to these shows that where you see them doing all these different calls. That thing called at me the month previous. It kept me in my tent all night and all that, and it made this call at 5:45 in the morning. We went back a month later, and I did that same call over and over, and it answered all right. It chased us right to our car. So we don't know what we're saying when we're imitating what we hear from them.
I have to say this too. You mentioned the Chief Squatchers. I had spoken to them just recently, and they're a very good bunch. I don't know if it's perhaps the way they deliver and how they're honest about a lot of topics, but at the same time, I know when I was interviewing them, Jen, Jenna, and Tammy, they had mentioned about how they go out into the woods, and it could just also be because as a female, instantly, because my fiance is the same way with this, you know, very motherly, very genuine, not as compared to a guy, I guess, who would come in there with a knife or a gun and try to like harm one of these things. And it's not like anything sexist or favored, but it's at the same time, it's just like if you think about it, it would make a bit more sense if more of the Squatches would be a bit more on a more parallel understanding basics of morality, I guess, because of just how there is a bit of generosity. I'm sure they would tell a difference of a threat between a male or a female, but at the same time, I like to say that these Bigfoots do tend to have personalities of their own, just like human beings. I mean, yeah, you and me are two very genuine human beings conversating, but there could be one male out of the bunch who, 9 times out of 10 is the case, that's an asshole, and often will be a prick to people, and that's basically, I guess you could say, how a Bigfoot or an aggressive Squatch is. A lone wolf is that type of prick, but in a good sense too. I mean,
I agree with you. I think that they all have their own personalities. I firmly believe, and my wife says the same thing, that female walks straight down that path, and as we're looking at each other, and that was to try to get me to come toward her so that her kid could. Their kid was in our camp. We couldn't see him, but he was like, I say our camp. He was 25 feet just below our camp, and he was literally he oofed a raven. So and it was shortly after that female come walking directly down that path, and then took an abrupt left right into the thick forest, and I believe that she was trying to distract us so her kid could get back across that creek, because they're extremely curious. But that male, he's aggressive. And I've talked to other people that, without giving them a lot of the story and all that, and they go, "Oh yeah, you're talking about the up here by this area. Yeah, that male, he's extremely aggressive." But it's not the red one. It's her son. Her I would have to say her son. I don't know. I didn't ask him. I didn't interview him. It just seems to me, I never got the feeling that one that chased us and the aggressive uh, behavior a month previous was her mate, because of the red one. The red one was the giant. And that's another thing I think that is why I can only focus on that for a couple of minutes. Sometimes it's because it's just out of the realm of I'm trying to explain something that I don't buy into that 10-foot, 12-foot type of thing, because you have to put engineering into it too. I don't think that what I saw was, the one that chased us and all that was 800 pounds. I don't think that female was any more than 350 to 400 pounds. I don't think that male was any bigger than maybe 600, because then it doesn't work anymore. I mean, and if you just look at your own body, I don't know how tall you are, but me, I'm let's just say I'm 5'9". So we're gonna go with 5.5 feet. Everybody always goes, it was 8 feet, 800 pounds. That's 100 pounds a foot. Okay, that can't be. It can't be. And we're not talking about the same way a bear is put together. Okay, that's another thing that people don't understand. Or a horse, or a moose, or a buffalo. They're put together differently. They're not bipedal. So just look at a 6-foot man and put 600 pounds on it. Then you have my 600-pound life where they're carrying you in and out with forklifts. So I don't buy that they're that's 8 feet, 800 pounds, 10 feet, 1,200 pounds. The biomechanics just wouldn't work. I'm not a PhD and I'm not a scientist. I'm a citizen scientist, but I guarantee you that 8 feet, 800 pounds does not work for bipedal. It couldn't work. There's no way you'd be obese. And people want to argue it. That's fine. They can argue with it. You can argue with yourself, because I'm not arguing with you. I don't even reply to posts anymore. I don't care. You're not going to bait me into an argument that leads nowhere. And, sorry, but that's just the way I am. And as far as the sheet washers go, Tammy is the one I talk to her probably constantly, as far as, on Facebook and stuff like that. She's my favorite. She lost her husband and everything there a couple of years ago. So kind of feel her pain a little bit and all that. So, but I've talked to her about going into the same place over and over and over, instead of hitting the road and doing that, like all the other researchers that are in speaking, try, especially if all the places that she goes vacationing and stuff like that, really, I would say go to the same place over and over and over and over and over. And that's what Paul Graves says too. And just act like you act. Just be that camper. And I'm not talking about campgrounds where you got 70 people in there and all that. I'm talking about dispersed camps and things like that. That's what me and my wife do. You get up in those areas, man, where they can observe you, and just be yourselves. Just do what you do, man. Just camp. And they will observe you. And like with me and my wife, they decided they'd come out, and they weren't very friendly, but why would I expect? That'd be like if you walked in my house. I'm not going to be real friendly to you if you just show up a stranger in my house. But we do fortunately go back over and over and over and over, to the point where we moved here to go. And that's the best advice I can give anybody in this, is to just keep whatever your cryptid is. Look, I'm not going to make my cryptid any better than anybody else's. I know that mine is real, and I wish they wouldn't call it a cryptid, because it's real. I'm not so sure. I think that when people talk about dogmen, I think that they have maybe a Sasquatch also, but people seem to be a little bit more terrified when they tell them dogman stories. I have never in my life, I'm 59 years old, never until that lady wrote that book, The Brer Road Beast, or whatever that was. I believe
Beast of Bray Road by Linda Godfrey.
Yeah, Bravery, and Linda Godfrey's an awesome person. But I had never heard of and plus that vampire werewolf movie where, are you Jacob or are you the other guy, a fan club type of thing.
Twilight.
That helped too in this dogman thing. I mean, I've heard people say that that they saw a giant wolf and that's a dog man. You know, it's just as mucky in the dog man thing as it is in the Bigfoot world, I believe. I'm not going to say they don't exist, dude. I'm not, because too many people say what they saw, and you know, and you can see the terrified faces when they talk about it and things like that. I used to just go, oh, geez, but I think there probably could be something to it. I firmly believe that it's a type of Sasquatch, but I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. I mean, I would hate to find out by having one stick their head in my tent or something like that. Well, yeah, you exist too, damn it. So I just have a problem with 2 8-foot cryptids living in the same woods. One we've heard about look, they used to call them wild men, the Bigfoot. Okay, you only have to go back. My wife, she was good about digging up old newspaper clippings and reportings of from a couple hundred years ago of the wild man here in America. And they're Sasquatch. But there's no old newspaper clippings of wolfmen here in America. You know, literally, you get I believe I read a couple that had dealt with, oh, there was a wolf man with clothes and all that. You know, I'm just not going to go down that rabbit hole. Then you're talking about real supernatural stuff. And you have to also understand that the media has always been the media. It didn't get dirty just these last couple of years. It's always been dirty. And so I think that, but they're fairly the old wild man stories are amazing to read. They're absolutely amazing to read. You have them where they speak without. There was a time when you just spoke how you felt, or when you were, you know, I mean, they talked about, and the Negro was chased by this wild man, and you know, you're just like, that's just the way speech was used back then. Speech evolves just like everything else. In my day, when I was a kid, you said groovy. Nobody says groovy anymore. It doesn't exist. But the evolution of language, and you read these old posts, and they're referring to women as dames and black people as Negroes and things like that. But these stories of the wild men are really something. You go back to the 1700s and read these things. They're amazing. All you got to do is go online and look them up, and you're just like, holy cow. So yeah, that's pretty amazing stuff. I hope I'm not putting everybody to sleep here.
Honestly, I think it's very good to see, for one, somebody who's very honest and open. I mean, don't get me wrong, I interview a lot of honest and open people, but when it comes to a lot of the points you've also discussed in reference to the field, in reference to dogmen, because a lot of the people who I speak to about dogmen, they don't talk about the part of it being that it could just be another Bigfoot or a different variation, because people are so glued to the point where it's an actual cryptid. And I do think it could exist as an actual cryptid, and I do believe, because I've had people come up to me and say that they've seen a dogman and stuff. So I am under the impression that it is an existing creature, but I can also respect the fact that for some others out there who may not necessarily think all too well. You do bring up a good point, however, and that is in reference to the fact being that you have a whole history, even before the first reports of the Beast of Bray Road were brought to the newspapers, and a history that of Bigfoots going as far back as to the early 20th century, and dogmen being this brand new topic in the last 32 or 35 years. I mean, it's relatively brand new. I didn't hear about dogmen until 2010, and after this point, it's been about 5 or 7 years since I first got into Bigfoot, so that should already tell you right there that you know, dogmen being relatively still brand new. And I feel that there's a lot of exaggeration, I have to say this, with a lot of exaggeration in reference to Bigfoot and dogmen. primarily dogmen, because again, we think of dogmen, we think of werewolves. You brought up the whole vampire Twilight, you brought up Twilight, I brought up Twilight. We mentioned about the vampires and werewolves in that movie, and how there's a coexisting portion, and then at the same time we look at films like Dog Soldiers or The Howling as other classic werewolf movies that have introduced us to what a werewolf is, and we think of dogmen, we think of werewolves because we're so adjacent to that. And I think that's also a big problem as well, because we do often see these things as werewolves. I don't think they're werewolves. I don't even think that they're anywhere near supernatural. At one point in time, I was convinced, but then at the same time, I kind of realized my convincing on that part was a little asinine, considering the fact that not everything is demonic. Because if you think about it, if things were demonic, or if things were like that supernatural, because they're categorized, these dogmen are categorized as vicious and demonic or violent because of their nature. And I'm not saying that they're aggressive in nature, because we say the same thing about Bigfoots, but if we're talking about these creatures ripping the heads off a deer or dismantling an animal, in which there's been some reports of mutilated animals, but I feel that we are now digging into something a little bit more deeper than a Bigfoot or a dogman at that point. And on top of that too, I think they're just being hyped up sometimes often as that werewolf creature, because of the fact is that we're so familiarized with that. But I mean, with dogmen, again, there is such a huge number in reports, and I think people often put Bigfoot over dogmen or dogmen over Bigfoot because of it being this particular cryptid. Bigfoot over dogman's one thing, because we know about Bigfoot's existence. We know about it for a long time. There's been more publications on Bigfoot than there have dogmen. And on top of that, with the dogman creature, I just feel with the whole interdimensional portal thing, I feel that you have to physically see that in order to believe it. And I feel anybody who has said it and has not brought up any source of proof or any further explanation that would be enlightening to somebody who doesn't know too much about it, it becomes a problem. And I think that's kind of the thing where I have to agree with you strongly on, is in reference to the whole idea of taking these things a bit seriously, because of the whole idea that they come off as very characteristic towards something we'd see out of a Bigfoot, but at the same time I also can see with the background. But also, would you think too that maybe could dogmen just be a hybrid of like a coyote or a wild dog, or perhaps another form of species out there?
Well, people are saying they're now look, I've seen coy dogs in most of the eastern United States. They have not just coyotes and not just wolves. Our wolves are gone, actually. They have coy wolves that are a breed all of themselves. Uh, Before the wolf became extinct, it decided, the heck, better start breeding with some coyotes to carry on our legacy. Well, so that you basically have your coy dogs. We have a lot of those here in the Pacific Northwest, coy dogs, breeding people's dogs and stuff like that, and because people drop dogs off. Uh, so no, I would not. Uh, my problem with it is when people say it's 8 feet tall, it was standing up, uh, hands, hairy hands, but that its legs were no different than a dog, but it's standing up, and it was running 50 miles an hour or whatever on two legs, but the legs were exactly the dog. So when you look at a circus dog or whatever, and you see how many problems they have trying to do their little acts, walking like that, it doesn't work. It genetically, it just couldn't happen. Engineering wise, it just couldn't happen. Now you put legs like a Bigfoot or something like that. Okay, that'll work. That'll at least improve the myth a little bit, uh, because most of the time when you get a coy dog or a coy wolf, um, they're only gonna. What happens is you add another 20 to 40 pounds on one, but that doesn't make them 6 feet tall and walking upright and running. That hands like a man and all that stuff. That's where I have the problem. Another thing for me is it's real popular in the South for the researchers. A couple of them are real famous too. They run around as a team, but They talk about people witnessing Sasquatch molesting their farm animals, and Sasquatch braiding the hair of their horses, but nobody's got the time to take a picture, or you know what I mean. You're molesting my horse, is what they're trying to tell you, that all over the South that the Sasquatch will molest farm animals. They've seen it. But you can't snap a picture, or a little get a little video on that, perhaps to prove the stupidity you just said uh, about Sasquatch molesting your animals. And then these people that go, well, I used to feed Sasquatch, but I had to go away for a month, came back, and it killed all 40 of my goats. Why would they kill all 40 of your goats? And if you're going to have 40 goats and every one of them has a broken neck, but it didn't all happen in one night, wouldn't you be staying up with a shotgun to kill whatever the hell is killing your goats? I mean, that's a way of life. You got 40 goats, you're no longer having a pet. You're a farmer and probably want to make money off of them. So, I put those stories to bed. Look, I just don't believe them. And I know how much the Bigfoot world also overblows stories. There was last year or the year before, there was several horses that were killed in this neighborhood, and oh my God, every single Sasquatch and Dogman site had the big old horses laying dead on the sidewalks. Police don't understand, blah blah, and their hearts were ripped out and all this. And boy, I'm so mad. They were miniature horses, miniature, which means they're no bigger than a dog, and they were killed by dogs. But the Sasquatch world and let's just say the crypto world, they blew that out of proportion. And then you couldn't get people to listen to you. Like, number one, I got on the one side and I said, look, that's not a proper picture. These were miniature horses that were killed. And my cousin had miniature horses when I was a kid. You can't ride them, even if you're a little kid. You can't ride them. They're not even as big as a German Shepherd, and it's a horrible, terrible thing to do to an animal and make them miniature like that. But yeah, I noticed that the Sasquatch world will latch onto something, and then like the partial face a couple of years ago with the eyes looking down, that was on every site there was, and there was a billion. It didn't matter what you said you thought it was. No, I've seen those before. No, I've seen those before. Then what the fuck are you asking?
Is that the one in the tent?
No, God, that's so phony. It ain't funny. The one in where it was looked down into it, literally looked like cougar eyes. Excuse me. And I still think it's cougar eyes if it's not fake. And no, it didn't matter what you said. Nope, it had to be a Sasquatch. So I'm just like, that's why I said I am not a member of any site other than some cooking or something local here. I'm not ever going to go back on a Bigfoot site.
That's why I left a lot of the cryptid groups as well, because of the continuous negativity in reference to, this has to be a Bigfoot or a Dogman. This is 100% Dogman. If you don't believe this person, you're a fucking asshole. Literally.
Yes. That's the truth. And they get all mad at you when you go, well, it looks like it could be a boulder. The way the shadowing is. What the hell makes you think that's a boulder? That's, I'm just like, why are you so mad at me? I don't make everything Sasquatch, and that seems to piss people off. Sorry.
It's 100% the truth, because I've witnessed it, and I know exactly how people can be. There could be people who will think that we'll look at this photograph and say that there's something in it, but I'm not going to say there's something in it because I don't believe there's something in it. And I'm sorry if people might feel that way. Unfortunately, that's the case, because honesty is key. I'm not going to be a part of the bandwagon that sits there and says, listen, that's 100% a Bigfoot. No matter what trees and blobs that looks like, I don't give a shit. That is 100% Bigfoot. Now, I have to admit to some people as well. I think one of the big problems with the when it comes to a truthful finding in the field is that you have a problem where people will latch on to somebody and anything they say is 100% fact and they worship it like it's Jesus, and it's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
you're right. You're right, Chris. That's rampant right now. You're very right about that.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, you talk about people who have fan bases. I know that we've had people. I know people have a lot of support for me, and people have a lot of support for you and Daniela. And I mean, everything that you guys do, people will always be the benefactor because anybody. It's like the media. If someone puts out an article or says something about this guy, then it's going to be fact because hey, it's a reliable source because hey, listen, these people have always been 100%, even though that they don't have a lot of points in the community with a lot of the veteran investigators. And that's just an example is, anybody out there can conduct any type of discussion and it'll always be considered fact to those who are the celebrities. Now, of course, some people often like to start wars with you because you've obviously either A, have discovered something that they don't like and that you are 100% on, or they'll try and screw you over by doing things behind you and making big scenes out of things because that's what they want, because that's part of their game. Despite all tensions aside, if you still continue to do that type of stuff, it should say a lot about somebody's character.
Right. And I will not Sibylla, Chris, and Irwin, she was going to draw as I told her, what was happening and all that. She was going to draw. She started drawing, and I said, look, I can't give you a detail on her face because I looked at her face. It looked to me like a woman, a Caucasian woman. And so the rest of I just focused on the rest of her body, which I was just messing with me. I couldn't understand. And I said, I'm not going to fabricate a story. I said, I can't tell you what her face looked like other than the fact that I thought I was looking at a woman. And so she had to stop her drawing, but I am not ever going to fabricate something. I just, or add to it or whatever. Uh, it, I'm not going to do it. And if you don't believe me, I'm fine with that. I've got nothing to gain. I've had everything to lose. I can't tell you how many times at work I've been laughed at. But at the same time, I find that one of my bosses has encountered a Sasquatch. One of the salesmen has encountered a Sasquatch. One of the head salesmen, literally him and his dad were fishing and saw a giant male and could only cast a portion of his footprint. It was so large. And literally met with Dr. Meldrum, and Dr. Meldrum has that cast of the half cast of this thing. So I'm in good company with some of these guys also. So it's just that it's those guys that want to roll their eyes, and that really makes me mad. One of our engineers kept telling me, "Well, Jace, it doesn't make sense to me. You got to convince me." And okay, that's fine. Same way I say convince me about the woo. He says, because as an engineer, and I don't know if you've ever met engineers, Chris, they're all assholes. But he says, you're going to have to prove it to me. I'm an engineer. It doesn't work for me and all that. And I said, well, let me tell you something. There's a man out there. His name is, goes by Coonbo. And he is an engineer, and he works for NASA. And he saw Sasquatch. So that's all I could tell you. Tim Baker. Tim Baker is a bona fide engineer, works for NASA, and he saw Sasquatch. So I don't know what, I can't explain to people. I don't know where they go. I saw them. I don't know anything about them. I don't know where they go. I don't know where they sleep. I don't know where their bones are. I can't answer any of those questions. I can only tell you that I saw them, and that my wife and I were chased by one, and that we sat and listened a month previous to the whoops and oohs and just all kinds of stuff that just, yeah, reality became, I actually thought, we thought to start with that they were filming one of those shows on the other side of the creek. And that's what we were thinking because it was all just like watching TV. And no, nobody filming. When it got dark, it was dark. There were no fires, there were no lights, none of that shit. So we realized that, well, you know what? There's really something over here. So, and we had one that was tree peeking. My wife, she'd look up and he'd quickly hide his face and all that stuff. But she wasn't afraid of him back then until we got chased. And that's when. Plus, I have a missing memory from the first night she had dropped me off up there. And Daniela thinks that my body may have made me go to sleep for a little bit, just a short time, because I was under a great deal of stress with them outside the tent doing all the things they were doing. There were footprints everywhere. And you know what? I never took a picture. She never took a picture. It was right out of a fantasy. There was the picture, the footprints were so beautiful and crystal clear. And it just never even dawned on me. I thought I was going to die. So I just, those things never even entered my mind. So when people go, why don't you take a picture? Well, I take pictures now. Now that I'm, aware of everything that's going on and all this stuff. But back then, 4 years ago, I didn't, the last thing that even entered my mind. So, there's a lot to this that people like me with some missing memory and all that. I don't know why it is, but I had one researcher tell me that when it comes back, it'll come back all at once and I'll be able to figure it out. So I don't know. I don't know if that'll ever come back. I kind of don't want it to. So, and I don't believe in the hypnotism thing. I'm not going to go into some place. You know that most of the time when they want to do these regressive hypnotisms and things like that, they'll have little alien statues in their office, and they'll have Bigfoots and things like that. And then you're supposed to trust that they're going to put you under and you're going to tell them a story. Well, you've already got that put into your mind by just the statues in the room, the little, trinkets. And so I just don't trust them. And I don't want to know. I've been asked a couple of times, go do that hypnosis thing, get regressed and all that. And I don't want to know. If I didn't feel violated, that's the most important thing, is I felt okay when I got up at all that stuff. So yeah, I'm not going to do that. No way.
I can't say I blame you too, because there's so many risks. Oh shit. I just realized I was muted. I can't say I blame you, man. I really can't, because at the end of the day, there's so many precautions that really should be going into a lot of investigative work. And I think one of the big things is learning how to go into the woods and learning to investigate the proper way. I feel that I want to touch base on something you brought up earlier about everything that people put out and everything people believe and say. I don't think some of these... I don't want to call them... nobody's an expert, but I also don't want to say that their work is completely misinformative. Some of the work could be beneficial. However, I think what it comes down to is that anybody that goes into the woods unknown, has no single experiences whatsoever in the woods, should not be going out there alone, or should be going out there with any clue of a surrounding. People try to go into a lot of surroundings bare bones, or at least all in, where they don't want to go ahead and do a background, research the place. They just want to go right into it. So not only are there threats of bears or mountain lions or cougars or bobcats, depending on where they live, but now you also have to deal with the repercussion of the fact is that since you're dealing with those type of animals, they're there, but you don't know they're there, but you're looking for Bigfoot. So it becomes a problem, I think, down the road. So ultimately, I think investigation-wise, there's been a bit of a heavy backtrack because of how some people can go about it. And also, too, there's also people who are out for blood. They're very pro-kill. They want to kill one, to study one, and at the same time, they want to learn
but they also feel that if this thing comes at me, I'm going to shoot it. Which is, I understand, it's a normal reaction. You want to have a self-defense already built into play. I had a guy I spoke to in Michigan talk about dog baiting, and one of his defense mechanisms was, of course, an air horn, talking about how loud noises will sensitize their ears to an extent to where they will back off. I don't know how true. I've never seen one before to prove it, but I've often brought, obviously, a pocket knife, some format of defense, and at the same time, just in general, a lot of common sense. And I go out with people who also have a lot of background in the woods, because I feel that sometimes people just go in there and they don't know what they're prepared to go up against. They think that they're looking for something, but really they also come back with a whole bunch of other things. I want to ask you, though, what is you would think would be the best advice you want to give to people out there who are beginning investigators?
Ah, geez, don't believe everything you hear. I have a very close friend that he just the other night he's like, well, I don't even know what to believe anymore. Stay off the internet. Um, Go out and do real boots on the ground. Uh, take 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 notes. Um, and then ask yourself why. Every time you take a note, ask yourself why. Uh, when you look at something, and then ask yourself how when you're looking at and you're drawing your picture of what you're looking at, structures or whatever it is, because I don't believe they make a lot of structures and stuff like that. But do these things and keep a list. If you see something you think is a glyph, I know they make glyphs. So, but why I don't know. I think it's a directional thing. That's all. I don't know. But write down and then ask why, how, where, how far off the trail, or was it near the trail, or those types of things. I really think you should contact Shelly Covington, Montana, and ask her on, because she's way better at this as far as she actually is a researcher. My wife and I are going to start doing some things. We're knowers, but we're going to start doing some things where we're going to start cataloging some things. Get you a one of those recorders, digital recorders. Get a couple of them, and go out in a few different areas and get them set up. They're real durable. You can get them at Walmart for sometimes under $25. Make sure that you film the pictures, or film the pictures. That makes sense. Things like footprints and things like that, but use scale. You have to keep something on you where you're going to have scale. Don't just take a picture, because we don't know how long something is or how wide something is if you don't have scale. So even a dollar bill, if you got a dollar bill in your pocket, lay it out beside whatever it is you've got there. Make sure that if you're looking at tree breaks and they're twisted, are they twisted to the left, or are they twisted to the right? Are there tree breaks and twists in a row? Those types. All these things are extremely important, and being a citizen scientist, it will pay off for you in the end if you're going to do it. But stay off the internet. Don't. That's the worst thing that's ever happened to Sasquatch, is the internet. So I would. Don't listen to any of the pictures you see, or the best pictures every year. It's the best pictures of 20 this, and best pictures of 19 this, and no, they're junk. They're garbage. Stay off the internet. Use it as a tool of looking at the areas you want to go to, and if you find one track, just one, then keep going back to that area and keep going back and act normal. Act normal, act normal. And if you play an instrument, a softer type of instrument, don't go out there blasting, electric guitar. But if you play guitar or harmonica or something like that, go out there and play, and then maybe occasionally put out a whoop. We were out a couple months ago, and my buddy and his two daughters and my wife and my grandson, and his daughter was whooping up to her this ridge, and she was getting whoops back. Unfortunately, because of that, she kept her dad up all night. So, but she got lots of whoops back from this ridge that was way above us. So, just be careful. Don't go out and do ridiculous things. Don't go taking a bunch of food up there to give them, things like that. Make them something. Find a place where you can leave something like some rocks or something like that, and just make some designs and do those types of things. Don't take up food and things like that. It's one thing if you got some apples or something like that, but stuff from the store is not good for us. It's not good for them. I've got apples outside right now I bought from the store that are 2.5 months old and are just as crisp as the day I bought them. That's not good. You don't want to give those to something that's living in the wild. So I would say just go and have fun and get out there. Just be mindful of where you're at, what you're doing. Don't litter. Just be careful at the same time. Also, don't take a bunch of children with you, little children. I don't trust them around children. I think that they're intrigued by our kids, and I don't think they mean to hurt them. I don't think they eat them and all that other crap. But I do think that there's been some children that have been killed because they just didn't understand how to treat them. You know what I mean? They may have been a little too rough or something by not meaning to. So I think that we just need to be mindful of the forest while you're in there, and keep your eyes open and your ears open, and just have some fun while you're out there. Don't go out there thinking you're going to solve this tomorrow, because you're not. So just be another tool in the big box of Sasquatch, and we can all work together and get this done. So that's my advice.
I think that's pretty good advice too, because I mean, again, I think one of the biggest things that we often do get a little lost in is when we listen to certain people and we get into that following, but people don't build their own opinions the way they should, because that's the right way of thinking. Considering that if you are wanting to develop I wouldn't say career, but rather more of maybe you would say a career, because in a sense it is something that you'd stick to. Just the idea of getting into this field. And I think as time has went on, because back in the day, you could say that before the internet, there was books that were subject matter on this. There's also talks about how prior conventions and whatnot, small little expos that were slowly becoming more mainstream for a lot of cryptozoologists. And I think it's very important to hear what other boots-on-the-ground investigators have to say. That would be good advice to those who are beginners, and not just hear it from just one person, but hear it from others as well. But at the same time, understand the difference between boots in the ground and, of course, an armchair investigator, which are two different things. But that's a subject for another day. I will say this, though, for what we've talked about this evening, we really do have a lot of good points and grasps on a lot of things here, Jay. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy speaking with you, is the fact that you are very honest about things and have not just from experience. It's like we've both seen the same things happen in the field from experience, just how we've seen conflicts, we've seen people talk about stuff. You might leave for a little bit and then come back to see everything all glorified with biblical and supernatural discussion. It really, for me, it kind of drains a little bit as an investigator, because it's like, where is our seriousness? Where is our credibility going in the next 10 years if this keeps up?
I agree. I completely agree.
But, yeah, no, one of the other things I wanted to touch base with you on is, you mentioned about in the reports of different color types. I want to ask you, how many different variations, or at least how many types of Bigfoot do you think are out there?
I wouldn't know. I saw a red one, a gray one, and a dark one. So I would have no idea. I'm sorry. That's a part of the honesty that's a part of me, and that is I don't know. I have no clue. I can only tell you what I saw.
Perfectly fine. No, I do want to ask you about this though. This is a very interesting topic because I think this is one of the things I wanted to ask you for quite a while. Is about missing 411. You know, there always been the cases of people who go missing in the woods all the time. A lot of people, I guess now, often see cryptids being a reasoning for why people go missing in the woods. But see, the problem is that I don't think everybody officially really seems to get the idea that everything is a reason for a reason, but not everything is to be blamed on Bigfoots or dogmen. Do you think that a lot of these missing 411 cases are attributed to cryptids, or are they just natural accidents and disappearances due to the inexperience in the forest or the wild? Or do you think it's a little bit of both that's going on here?
I think that, listen, if it was cougars and bears, there'd be blood and blood trails. They're messy. When they have to kill, they shake and all that, and there's going to be blood. They don't lick up all the blood and then carry the body away. Some of these children are found thousands of feet above where they disappeared, with no explanation of how they got up there. And there are children that are found 2 to 3 years later with just a tooth, only a tooth, and their clothes are sitting there. Do I think that some of this is cryptid? I do. Do I think that some of this is somebody's out there doing some bad things? I do. Could there even be some kind of something supernatural that somebody walks through and they're gone? That could be too. I'm not going to not say Sasquatch is not responsible for some of this stuff, but in some of the stories, one of them was from the 1920s. A bear comes walking in their camp, unzips their tent in front of everybody, takes the infant out of the tent and runs off with it, and then brings it back a little bit later. But they're saying it's a bear. Why would you say that? These are some of these are old stories, but I do think that it is a little of all of it. I think we have some serial killers or that refine their skills by being out in these areas, mountain men type of could be. Sasquatch, yeah. I don't know about Dogman. Like I said, the problem I have with when people try to say it was a cougar or a bear is there's no blood. These people disappear. If you look at the hunted, I don't know where these 80-year-old men disappear to. There's no gullies. There's nothing for them to get lost into. Where'd they go? It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. I would even go so far as to say if there is alien type of stuff, maybe that's happening too. But I'm completely open for how and what could be causing this, because look, I had coon dogs and hound dogs, and they could sniff a fart out of a Greyhound bus 10 months old. You know, there's no way that these dogs come into these where kids are missing and people are missing and not just sit there and not follow a trail. Something's up. So my opinion is it could be all of the above.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I wanted to ask you specifically, because I know that that's a question I try to affiliate a lot with, because I think that talking about everything with Bigfoot and Dogman, like I said, it just becomes too complex and too similarities. Everybody thinks this is a Bigfoot or a Dogman or this and that. And one thing I wanted to ask you, and I think we've touched base on it a little too, but I could be wrong. What do you think about the idea of when investigators or researchers cross cryptids and paranormal together, creating this paracryptid? I'm not saying that all things are paracryptid. I mean, there's some cryptids out there that have kind of sparked my curiosity. Mothman being one. You have the Jersey Devil being another. Do you think that there is what do you think about when there is a cross of investigators try to cross these two together?
I think it's what I think is irrelevant. I'm a man who basically looks for Sasquatch, and I don't have time for the other things, and I don't spend a lot of time with them. I think that I'm too busy looking for Sasquatch to wonder about Jersey Devils and things like that, pterodactyls, thunderbirds, and things like that. And if you want to do it, that's fine with me. I don't have an opinion, and I'm a Bigfoot guy, and I just don't have an opinion on the other stuff.
No, that's no problem. I will want to ask you about this, though, about paranormal wise. I know you said that you're a Bigfoot guy, but have you had any type of paranormal experiences that you would think of, or has it always just been cryptid?
No, there's yeah, there's been plenty of even with my wife, way before Bigfoot was ever thought of. Yeah, there's paranormal stuff out there. I'm just not afraid of it. When I was 14, I was lifted off my bed for just up 4 feet high and then dropped. It was just like that. I was laying there watching Happy Days, I believe it was, and I was just went whoosh, bam, like that, right back on my bed. Never happened before, never happened since. I'm 59 years old, never had happened since. But yeah, that was completely frightening to me. My wife has seen things, and my kids and stuff like that. So yeah, I firmly believe they're supernatural. It just doesn't scare me because I know that we're above all that. And it has nothing to do with religion for me. I just feel like I'm stronger than whatever is out there. And so yes, I do firmly believe that there are. I'm not so big into ghosts as looking at people. Like someone will say, "Oh yeah, and the guy was wearing a top hat and all this." Well, who made his ghost clothes? I mean, if people get pissed off, I'm just trying to solve this for myself. If you saw this, who would you think made the ghost clothes? Because clothing can't be ghosted. So, but when I hear people say the ghost was like a bright light or a moving light type of shadow, then I believe that, but not the. I think that sometimes these apparitions may present themselves to you in a way that you won't freak out. What I'm saying is maybe they know already that would scare us. So I'm going to appear like this. And that's where you get your Civil War soldier or a maiden or the, woman in white and all that other stuff, because seriously, you have to ask yourself who made the ghost clothes. Again, I'm just being a critical thinker. Sometimes a little bit too much, maybe for some people, but yes, sir, I do believe in that there are definitely some supernatural things going on out there.
Nonetheless, I don't think it's happening too crazy in the Bigfoot or Dogman community because, again, we're both under the impression that isn't the case, and that's why we speak so well with each other. We have that same 50-50 understanding. I will say this, though, for anything in relations to Bigfoot, what are some of your current plans ahead, investigation-wise?
We were actually going to go out this weekend, and we're going to camp. My wife and I put out some, it was supposed to be 50 in the 50s this weekend. So we got excited. We were going to go camp and up in our spot and take the recorder up there and all that, and enjoy a good weekend and see if we can, what we could find. There's a little bit of snow and stuff, but it turns out that it's supposed to pour down rain all weekend. I'm just not into that anymore. We're just not going to go. We're going to go ahead and go shooting. We're going to get our guns tomorrow and kind of go ahead and go do some shooting, some target practice, and let the dog run around a little bit and all that. So yeah, I get cold pretty easy now that I'm an old man. So uh, I'm not crotchety yet though. That's the plus. At least my wife says I'm not crotchety, or it could be. She said I am crotchety. It's one or the other. I'm too old to remember. So,
That's the beauty of it, though. But hey, you're still wise and intelligent, so you still got that.
yeah, yeah, and handsome.
Can't forget handsome, man. You're a good
Yeah.
looking guy, man. I have to admit, you got for I think a lot of people, when they get to that age, it's like, man, where do I start next? Going into the final stages of life, as some could categorize it. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I mean, some people come at it in one way, but for you, man, you look great for your age. I have to say, I would hope that when I'm 59, I look the exact same, if not on the same page, because future is not written, man. So who knows?
No, I look at my wife, and she's in her early 50s, and I think she's more gorgeous right now than she ever was. I mean, she's just gorgeous. And women and men didn't look like this when I was a kid. Uh, God, if you were in your 30s, you looked like you'd already been worked half to death, and I think that was because of the hard work that people had to do, just kind of wore them out. Uh, uh, it's a different world than it was when I was a little boy. I can remember my grandpa being in the field all day long from sun up until sundown, and just he loved it, and he'd be milking cows and plowing fields, and he just amazed me. But he definitely looked old. So yeah, it's a different lifestyle. It's a different time. I'm I'm healthy enough. I had a bad year last year, but I'm catching back up and all that. So uh, I'm doing a lot more cooking and a lot more. I have my own cooking channel, so I've been putting those out. That's the Bigfoot Barbecue and Camp Cookbook on YouTube, and I put out an episode every Saturday.
Man, I have to go subscribe now because food. I need to create food ideas, and I need you to be my guru to tell me how to make delicious foods. So I'm definitely going to take a look at that YouTube.
And let me mute you for a second, and you go ahead and keep talking.
Oh yeah, no. Just basically because I think it's always good to branch out and explore other outlets. And if you have a cooking channel, you have a passion for it, go for it. I mean, listen, anybody outside of the cryptid world, I think, should return to their own normal lifestyle, their own interests besides what they follow on their field. Because like I said, this community takes a lot of people's mentalities out of it. It's a psychological feeling because you grow so obsessed with this that you end up losing interest in who you are. And I've seen it happen to a lot of people. It deteriorates their personalities and they get in bed with the wrong people and they basically make a lot of bad decisions. And it's tough, but overall than that, I strongly support a lot of what you do, Jay, and I think you and Daniela are a perfect duo together on the show that you two orchestrate and have a great passion for this. And I think a lot of people should really check your content out because you're very honest, and I think honesty is key. So I want to thank you again. You've done such a phenomenal job not just with your investigations as well as also just from your perspective, but you know what is going on. You know exactly what's happening. It's not like it's hidden from you. You know the big picture, and that's something to be very proud of, man.
Thank you. And I want to give you my wife's channel too. She just started, and that's basically exploring with our dog, and it's called Beyond Paved Roads. Explore Beyond Paved Roads. She has her first episode out. It's great. She goes out with our dog here in the Pacific Northwest, and our dog Sibylla, and they just have a blast. So proud of my wife. She started this, God, well over a month ago, and I kept on her like, geez, when are you going to release this? But she really put a lot of thought, energy, and time into it. So very proud of her for this. And that's Explore Beyond Paved Roads.
I just sent myself a subscription to the channel.
Thank you.
As well as you, Jay. I mean, your cooking channel and everything that you got going, that's something to be, of course, very proud of, like I said. But yeah, explore both of your guys' channels. Very happy to see that type of branching out and doing it. But Jay, please stay on the line for just a couple minutes. We're going to end up getting towards the conclusion of the show. So, Jay, I want to thank you again for coming on Beyond Fringe. Do you have any closing comments or anything you'd like to say before we shut this one off?
I just, don't get mad at each other, and don't get upset with what I have to say. If you don't like it, just either prove me wrong or, don't have to you don't have to be mean about it. Just, if you think you have a better way, then you have to prove it. You have to go out there and do it. Let's get some thumbs up. And most important is get out there in the forest, put them games away, and get out there in the forest and spend a weekend and enjoy the fresh air and family time and swimming and shooting and all the fun things that you do out in the forest. That's what I want people to do. And don't be afraid. That's just have fun. Go out there and have fun.
Yeah, I agree. That's what it should be all about. Well, Jay, I want to thank you again for coming on Beyond Fringe. And folks, please check out Jay's channel, his wife's channel, and Hidden Existence, ladies and gentlemen. Jay, thank you again. You have a fantastic evening.
Thank you.